we get there.
Joining us now is Aaron McLaughlin, live in Ukraine. Admiral James Stavridis is the former Supreme Allied Commander of NATO, and Joel Rubin, former Deputy Assistant Secretary of State. Good morning to all of you. I know that, Aaron, you have been talking all along to people in Kyiv. After hearing some Ukrainians weren't too worried, I understand some are now telling you they're actually preparing for the worst. Why this change?
Hey, Chris. Well, local leaders are speaking out. This week, we heard from the mayor of Kyiv very publicly enlist himself in Ukraine's army reserve, saying it's up to ordinary Ukrainians to defend themselves. The Ukrainian equivalent to the army reserves, they're trying to enlist 130,000 citizens. And on weekends, we're seeing men, women, the elderly, teenagers train militarily. Also, medical training going on the weekends as well. We were speaking to local restaurant owners, one owner of a pizza shop who's offering free pizzas to anyone who goes out and buys a gun and becomes a, quote, defender. He was telling us he was on the front lines in 2014, and he believes it is a matter of when, not if, Russia invades. Take a listen.
We live in it for 8 years. We understand that our neighbors are insane, and they have a nuclear weapon, and they have a big army. And for me, invasion of Russia, it's a question only about time when it will be, but it will be.
Now, this morning, the Ukrainian foreign minister said that he believes all of this pressure from Ukraine and the West is working. He said he believes diplomacy is working, saying, quote, Ukraine and the West have won the first round against Russia. The threat of invasion is postponed, pointing to the fact that this threat has been looming in December through January. Now we're in February, but the threat persists, noting the 130,000 estimated Russian troops on three sides of Ukraine's border. Chris.
Well, Admiral Stavridis, very colorful language from that restaurant owner that he believes his neighbors are insane. And that would play into what we're hearing from the State Department about this, intelligence that they say shows, and we've seen this before, that Russia would be willing to stage an attack. Here's a little bit more about that pretext.
We are publicizing it now, however, in order to lay bare the extent of Russia's destabilizing actions towards Ukraine and to dissuade Russia from continuing this dangerous campaign and ultimately launching a military attack.
Admiral, do you think that making this intelligence public does dissuade Russia from launching an attack on Ukraine, essentially sending the message, we're not buying it?
Well, first, as we say on Capitol Hill, I want to associate myself with the remarks of the Ukrainian bartender. Yes, I do absolutely, and I have often said in situations like this, shine a little bit of light on it. You don't want to give away your sources, your methods. You'll put agents at real risk. But I think it's fine to talk about some aspects of the technical collection, to lay out a little bit more detail of this. Pretty similar thing, Chris, is when there's a cyber attack by one of these, shadowy Russian cyber gangs. We know darn well that's orchestrated and abetted and authorized by the Kremlin. We had to shine a little more light on that kind of behavior as well, because it does have a deterrent effect over time.
Joel, I know you continue to talk to folks at the White House. What are you hearing from inside about this?
Yeah, Chris, as Admiral Stavridis said, this release of this information is critical to ensure that we are preventing a war. The release prevents a dynamic that everybody, including what we saw from the Ukrainian bartender, wants to avoid. And that's really where the White House is focused. This is a whole of government approach right now. It's a high stakes game of nerves. And we're seeing the White House continually engaging diplomatically to keep our allies on board, identifying sanctions, putting that out publicly, calling out Russia and its disinformation to keep them off balance and ensure that they can't undertake operations that use the Ukrainians and our allies. This is what the White House is engaging in. It's a whole of government effort to try to prevent a war so that we don't have to see our forces get engaged directly. And I think we should also salute our forces as well for going out and supporting our allies in NATO and ensuring that they feel confident in American leadership at this moment.
Meantime, Admiral, we've been hearing from folks on Capitol Hill. They've been trying to fast track a package that would essentially say we've got our sanctions ready to go. But there is a debate over whether there should be a package of sanctions that really are tough if there is an invasion, or ones that can start even in advance to act as a deterrent. Where do you come down on that?
I think it's an issue about which reasonable people can disagree. In other words, tactically, you can make a case. In particular, give them a little taste of what these sanctions would look like, maybe some very targeted, very personalized kinds of things. On the other hand, on this one, Chris, I think better to wait, but to give full display. And this gets back to shining light. Here we're shining light on what Russia would walk into, and it would be a slamming door right in their face in terms of the global economy. Pretty significant. Now, having said that, just this morning, we see President Xi, President Putin, the new best friends forever. That is going to be the phone a friend exit for Vladimir Putin. So it's a complicated calculus. Personally, I would say show him what the sanctions are going to look like, but hold that card back until he actually makes a move across the border.
Yeah, she's saying we're not going to have these Olympics be politicized, and then he has a summit with Putin right before the opening ceremony. Admiral James Stavridis, Joel Rubin, Aaron McLaughlin, thanks to all of you.